All right, the Audible is on the air, getting an early jump start to this Memorial Day weekend. Kim Bokamper, AC in the AM, Andy Cohen with us. You can catch his stuff on Dolphins.com 5 days a week.
Beginning training camp will be Monday through Friday, and
you slack at this time of the year
during the off season. It's as events warrant, and recently there have been a lot of events that warranted. So my column's up there quite a bit.
So you did a lot of stuff for OTAs, the Dolphins OTAs. First time they've had the rookies and the veterans out on the field together, 11 on 11, 7 on 7s, everything they're going through. I know you had an opportunity yesterday to get out there, and the big question everybody asks, obviously, is how's Ryan Tannehill look? He's out there with the brace, and his comments says he feels 100%. You had a chance to take a look at him.
Yeah, I saw no flaws. I saw nothing to make me feel that he was reluctant, hesitating. He was at ease. His setup in the pocket was firm and true, moved around fine. The cautionary here is that as well as he feels, until he takes that first hit, there'll always be just a smidgen of doubt in everyone's mind. But right now, physically, there are no restrictions. I expected him to look good. I didn't expect him to look quite as smooth as he did.
There's for a guy like that, I mean, if you think there's going to be some consternation with him when it comes to that first hit, you could ramp that up 10 times had he had surgery and been awaiting that first hit and see what it feels like. That's a whole different animal that you got to deal with when you're coming off surgery and you know someone's going to be coming down at your legs and you got to deal with that. So fortunately, and I think it's fortunate for everybody, fortunate for the franchise, fortunate for the fans, certainly fortunate for Ryan.
Fortunate for this off-season program that he's involved with.
That they could continue to go right now. And look, he's been a tough guy since he came here. And he continues to be a tough guy. And the one thing I keep hearing from guys about Ryan Tannehill is he's pushing his leadership. This is his team. He's going to steer this team. This team's going to go the way Ryan Tannehill goes. He believes that. He understands that. And I think that's a good situation for him to be in.
Well, an interesting point is that Fasano's on the team now.
Yep,
and Fasano was on the team Tannehill's rookie season. Yep. So now he's getting an up-close view on the evolution of Ryan Tannehill from a rookie to now.
Yep.
And he said, wow, he is a leader on this team.
Yep.
He embraces that role. Whereas coming out of college, he was the shy rookie, wasn't sure what his space was. So Fasano sees what has occurred, and we've seen it gradually occur to where he is today.
And Anthony's a great guy to have around.
Great guy.
For Ryan Tannehill. I mean, he's a close friend. They get along well together. They can communicate with each other, and he can steer him through Anthony can steer him,
and he can block
through some tough waters. And no doubt about that he can block. But I think both from a physical standpoint, what he can do as a player, and from a mental standpoint for Ryan, he's a very good guy to have in that huddle and on the roster.
Yeah, I know Ryan was sorry to see him go 5 years ago, so. That's how much happier he is now to have him back.
Andy, you talk to Adam Gase, you hear him in the press conferences, you do all the things, you have a chance to see him out in the field. Do you see any difference between the Adam Gase of this year and Adam Gase last year at this time?
The biggest difference I see is just a comfort zone. Not only is he comfortable in this environment and the job, but he's comfortable with his players. Last year, he had to learn 90 players. This year, he doesn't have to learn 90 players.
Yep.
He probably has to learn 40 players this year, which is a big advantage because 50 of the guys on the team, he knows what they're like on game day. He knows how to push their button. So that comfort zone is something that's evident to me every time I see Adam Gase. And the fact that he has to learn a lot fewer players this year will really help him develop a feel for the team earlier than he did a year ago.
I think the other thing is you can see his fingerprint on the guys they're bringing in. Free agents, draft choices, rookie free agents. You can see the type of people. I did a thing last night with Isaac Asiata and with Charles Harris. And you know what? Two smart guys, two well-spoken guys, two polite guys that, they've got high expectations for themselves, but they're not taking anything for granted. Not coming, hey, I'm going to be a starter, I'm going to be a star. They're like, no, I got to earn my way, I got to work. And you see that with a lot of guys that come into this organization. And I think it's a continuation of him weeding out the guys last year that he didn't want, getting rid of those guys, and then keeping the guys in free agency that he wanted to keep on this team, the Kenny Stills, the Andre Branches, those kind of guys, Kiko Alonso extending him, all those types of things. And then the guys you have in the draft, more and more guys fit that same mold of what we see as the guys that he wanted to keep and continues to want to keep in this franchise.
I think the key word with Adam Gase is passion.
Yep.
He looks for passionate players. He looks for players that don't just clock in 9 to 5, that this just isn't a job, but this is their life, this is their passion, this is their dreams. And I think he believes when he gets that type of player, he'll be able to lift those players to greater heights, as opposed to not passionate and just clocking in and treating it as a job. So if there's a common thread in this rookie class, certainly the two guys that you interviewed last night, it's passion. They're very, very passionate about this opportunity and the sport they play.
Yeah, you're watching us. You're watching the Audible here on Periscope. You can go ahead and send your questions in. Just go to the message bar on the bottom of the page. Send your questions in. We'll try to get to as many questions as we can. I know we're a little bit early here, so we've got a jump start on this holiday weekend. So we've got a 3 o'clock start here, so hopefully we can catch up with some people here. Man called Jane. Any news on Pouncey? The good news on Pouncey is there's no news on Pouncey right now.
There's no news on Pouncey. And the thing about Adam Gase, again, is I was alluding to the fact of how well he knows his players. He knows Mike Pouncey.
Yep.
He knows what his skill set is. He knows how much practice time he needs and how much practice time he doesn't need. They're going to err on the side of caution with these guys. They're not going to – there's nothing they can prove in May and June.
Yep.
They need to prove things in August, September, October. I think you're going to see Pouncey be patient, move things along slowly. When the timing is right, when he's in peak condition, they'll mix him into the lineup. Again, the goal is play all 16 games, and that's what they're focusing on.
It's nice. It's refreshing to have a coach that sees those types of things and institutes them into his practice schedule and stuff, because we've had coaches here before that would treat these OTAs like you're playing a playoff game to go to the Super Bowl.
They're not practicing, they're not playing.
Thing, and the reality is these OTAs in the big picture, they mean this much. Right. They're iota. There's nothing to them. I was on the other day with Adam Poupart in here, and I said, Alan Poupart, I said, Alan, I remember going to mini camps. You remember we only had a mini camp.
That was it.
And mini camp was big during the off season.
Right.
I mean, it was a 3-day, you get together, you got to run your 12-minute run. They want to check out what condition you're in. They want to gauge where you're at as far as preparation for the season. So when I was younger, I remember being a big, big thing, mini camps. Got to be ready for mini camp. But then as I started playing more, excuse me, I realized in November and December when you're playing big games that are huge games, and I'd be sitting on the bench and I go, you remember those damn mini camps? Those things don't mean crapola. They're absolutely nothing. So, you kind of understand what these things are and what they're about. And like I said, we've had some coaches here that treat these things like it was, Game 7 of the World Series or whatever. And I think you see Adam takes these OTAs for what they are learning. And another great example is when he brought the rookies in, didn't even put them out in the field, just went through an indoctrination with them.
That was great.
Getting them to know what's expected of them, where they've got to be, what they've got to do, what he expects of them on the field and off the field, and all that. And then we'll get you on the field later on. This is what's important now. I think he understands what these OTAs are about and understands that in the big picture, that they're really a grain of salt.
They are, thinking back to when you played, there were no OTAs.
No.
Literally 4 months went by before I saw you again after the season was over.
I remember, I don't want to cut you off, but I remember the first year I was on injured reserve, didn't play all year, and we played the Minnesota Vikings last game of the year, got hammered by the Minnesota Vikings. And I remember walking in the locker room, and after Coach Shula walked around and pointed at everyone that wasn't going to be on the team next year,
a comforting feeling.
You won't be here next year. And then I remember the last thing he said is, I'll see you guys in May.
Right.
And that was it.
And that's why minicamp was a big deal, because minicamp was it.
It was it.
After minicamp, you went home and we didn't see you again till August, July.
Yeah. So it's different, but look, there's a lot of time to work with these guys, and no reason for it to get a guy like Pouncey to get him on the edge of being hurt again when it really doesn't it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, Adam Gase is handling this just right. He's not forcing the issue. He's not making guys practice when guys don't have to practice. He's being smart with the veteran players. He's treating each person differently, which is smart. Too many coaches go into this world and treat each player the same. If you're the starting quarterback, you're the starting quarterback for a reason. Treat him like a starting quarterback. Adam Gase does that.
Let me ask you this. It's been asked a lot on the program that people send in. And they ask the question, what do you see in Adam Gase that reminds you of Don Shula? And it's certainly premature to put a stamp on that.
It is.
But from where you're sitting, is there anything you see that gives you a reminder of Coach Shula?
You know, it's tough because Adam Gase is so young. When I first started covering Coach Shula, he was older than Adam Gase is now. You know, coaches have it. And if you have it, it's hard to put your finger on exactly what that is. But Adam Gase has that. I knew early on that Adam Gase was different than the people that they had brought in here the last 3 or 4 regimes. You know, Shula clearly had that it. The it is just beginning with Adam Gase now, but you see it, you sense it, you sense that confidence level, that aura about him. It's too early to really have a good feel about him and Shula. Give me a few more years of watching him, see how he handles adversity a little bit more. You know, then I'll have a better feel for that. But I really believe Adam Gase is the right coach for this team.
Oh, there's no question. You talk about it. You could go to Bill Belichick and look at Bill Belichick, arguably the best coach in the National Football League right now, and say he's got it, but I can't tell you what it is.
No.
But he's got a lot of hits.
Yes, and it translates into wins.
Yes, exactly right. That's exactly it. El Chapo, in the first week of OTAs, did anybody stand out? Anybody you saw that jumped out to you? Remember now, we only had Andy had the chance to watch practice yesterday. I wasn't able to make it there, so they had 3 practices out there, and the media was only allowed in for 1. So
I'll give you one name, Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker yesterday probably caught 8 to 10 shots over the middle. I'm talking 25-yard in plays, and caught the ball and exploded afterwards. And I don't remember a time since he's been here when he looked as smooth, as confident, as sure-handed as he was yesterday. We're all hoping that this is a sign of things to come, that he is seen now what it takes, what he has to do to be the elite player that this franchise hopes he becomes. So he stood out to me yesterday more than anybody else.
Well, it's good to hear that, because there's been grumblings around here during this offseason that, hey, Devontae's finally catching on. He's finally understanding how to be a pro. He's taking care of his body the right way. He's getting enough sleep. He's showing up on time. He's doing extra work. He's going out there doing all these things. And you hear those things, but then when I hear from you that reinforces that, it just tells you that, it's that old, where there's smoke, there's fire. Yeah, this guy's become the real deal here so far.
He's healthy. He's confident. He's in excellent shape. And really, what I saw yesterday, if you combine that with Landry and Stills, boy, they're going to have a minimum of 3 very, very potent, receivers to line up on an every down basis.
An interesting story came out today. I saw on Pro Football Talk just before I came in from our man Barry Jackson from the Miami Herald, saying that Leonte Carew is a guy that may not make the roster in the fall. Now, a bit of premature for a guy that they traded a lot of draft picks last week to move up on, but it's funny how this kind of comes out in a meaningless camp like this.
Yeah, I think Carew will have every opportunity not only to make this team, but to be the 4th receiver, to be in the rotation, to be far more involved than he was last year. I'm impressed with his skill set. Maybe someone needs to light a fire. I'm not sure.
Well, you know what? This message came from somewhere.
Yeah,
somewhere this came, and you don't know if this is just them trying to, hey, let's put a little spark out there and try to get this guy, moving in the right direction.
Yeah, but it's way too early to cut down the roster. By the way, speaking of cut down the rosters, the new NFL rule, I guess, means that every team has to cut 37 players on one day.
1 day, yeah.
Every team.
No down to 75.
So you're going to have 1,000 players at a job in one day.
Well,
it's crazy.
Well, can you imagine after that? How would you like to be in the personnel department and having to look at all these guys that are getting cut.
Wait a minute, we like him and him.
We want to like him. You know, it is because you go down the sideline.
It's going to be a wild few days because there's going to be so much movement.
You go down the sidelines during a preseason game, and you stand there and you see Chris Greer and you see the scouts, and they're all looking at the other players' teams and making their notes. You know, this guy here. So that when cut down day comes, they've got an idea of these guys they're looking at. But it's going to be it's going to be like Black Friday out there. You know, when it comes down to cut down days with all, and there's guys that aren't going to get jobs because there's just too many of them.
Right, and time's running out also.
Yeah, crazy. Okay, Light in the Dome. How was the team practicing in the heat this week? Well, I know they went in. When you were there, they were on yesterday. They were in the bubble because it was a little rainy. It was
supposed to rain yesterday.
Yeah. So they're inside, but they've been outside for a couple days out there.
Yeah,
can't hurt.
It's very hot and it's good for them. Lawrence Timmons came in for his interview the other day and he was cramping up. He had to excuse himself for a minute.
Throwing up.
Right, he wasn't throwing up, but he was cramping up. And after you play in Pittsburgh for 10 years, it's a little bit different. South Florida.
I saw Lawrence at the Dolphins at the DCC golf tournament. And I said, how are you going to be down here with the heat? I said, you didn't do so well, when you guys came down here with Pittsburgh. He goes, no, I've been down here in the heat. I work out in the heat. Don't worry, it doesn't bother me.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, you have the one practice and he cramps up.
Right.
He's going to be an interesting guy to see how he does.
Yes, he is.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. Jetta 1096. I've not been this excited since the Marino years. I think it's safe to say all of South Florida feels that way, and Dolphin fans around the country. Very excited about it. I think the transition of 1-4 last year to 10-6 getting in the playoffs really gave a lot of people hope. Obviously, in Adam Gase, what he was able to do, but then these players, as they got better and just refused to quit during that run, I think gave a lot of fans a lot of reasons to be excited about what they can expect.
People say to me sometimes, Andy, aren't you being too positive? They were 10-6 last year. Yeah. They made the playoffs. They have everybody coming back. They've upgraded their roster. They have a second-year head coach who has really, really gained a lot of valuable experience now. Why not be positive?
Yeah.
I mean, what about?
Well, why not be positive? Because everyone looks at stats. Everyone's looking at the stats. Oh, look at their defense.
The defense has to get better. There's no doubt the defense has to get better.
There's one stat I'll give you: 10-6. That's the only one you need to think about. I mean, you win, or you don't. I mean,
and I think they've really taken care of a lot of their needs this offseason. Yeah. We'll see how all the pieces fit as training camp evolves. But you got to believe with the additions they've made, certainly through the draft and free agency, that the defense is going to be better. You look at Hayes, the defensive
end. You look at Timmons. You look at Ted Larson, a guard. You go out and you look at Nate Allen.
Raekwon McMillan's going to play. You don't lead Ohio State in tackles two straight years.
Yeah, no.
By fluke.
Look, well, that's the other thing. I mean, I talk about this on draft day. Is you look at who you got. You got guys from Clemson, Ohio State, Missouri, Utah, all big-time programs, played in big-time conferences, and played in big-time games. Instead of, you remember we're always looking for under that acorn for that guy from Podunk U and that guy from this place and North Dakota State and everywhere we went. We camped out. Must have camped out at North Dakota State.
There's a reason
you're
playing big-time college football.
That's right. There's no doubt about it. Shizzy, my Rizzy. Bo, why are you not in the Bahamas with Dan Marino this weekend? And when you go, can you take me with you? I'm not going, so I'm not taking you with me. And the reason I'm not here, I got family in town. In fact, we got a live studio on. My brother came in town, so I shirked Dan Marino's Florida or Bahamas weekend to stay with family. So,
let Danny have fun.
That and the fact that I know I'm going to sleep better. I know I'm going to feel better in the mornings. I know I'm not going to be hungover. I'm not going to be out at that casino until 3 o'clock in the morning, which I would expect to be a lot of what's going on, with those guys. And I would have been right in the middle of it. So, I feel better that I'm here. I would feel glad at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd be very happy to be in the Bahamas. At 9 a.m. the next morning,
you'd be miserable.
Not so much so. So I'm better here than there. But it's a good weekend. He's got. I think this is the third year they've done it. They go over to the Bahamas. They play flag football against some flag football teams around the Bahamas that they put together. They play a golf tournament. They have a lot of events, a lot of parties and stuff. So it really is a nice weekend for the Dolphins and Dan Marino to get over to the Bahamas, and because those people are such huge fans over there.
I think Duper and Clayton go.
Duper and Clayton go. I know Joe Rose is over there.
What a shocker.
I think they got 18 or 20 guys over there. So, yeah. When Joe found out I wasn't going, he was, how come you're not going?
Well, he still didn't cancel, though, did he?
Come on. Free trip, free food, free drinks, all the shirts you can steal and whatnot. He's not
That's his favorite 4-letter word.
He's not going to pass that up. At Julie Tony, Landry's a spark on offense. Who's that spark on the defensive side? Well, yeah, I think they need to find one. I think last year, Kiko Alonso was the guy that lit him up a little bit, but Rashad Jones coming back, the safety, he's the guy. I think he's the guy that's going to be he's going to be the straw that stirs the drink on defense.
You're right on with that, Bo. Last year when he went down, there was a moment in every game when I said to myself, he would have made a difference in this game.
Yeah.
Some players are easy to replace. Some players are more difficult. Some players are impossible. Not because the depth isn't good, but because the guy is just that talented. It was so good seeing Rashad Jones at practice yesterday.
Well, first of all, he's talented. He's got instincts. He can read well. He reacts to the run. He does all those types of things. And he's that guy. He's that, I've always been on teams where the safety was the quarterback on defense. Glenn Blackwood, when Glenn was here. Before him, when I played with Dick Anderson and Jake Scott was the guy those were the guys that did all that. Got guys in the right position. They read formations coming out of the huddle. They read routes as soon as the ball was snapped, and they got people in position, and they were able to take advantage. And I think that's what you get in Rashad Jones also.
You're also going to get an impact on the rushing defense.
Oh, yeah.
Because the rushing defense, as we know, was a problem last year. Rashad Jones is excellent at the line of scrimmage, makes a lot of plays.
No doubt. I mean, you talk about setting the edge or coming up and run support. He does it as well as anybody. At the Audible, any of the undrafted guys catch your eye out there?
Too early for that.
Yeah, that's way too
Most
early.
of these guys in training camp, you start to notice them. You hear Gase talk about them. They build a little bit of a resume up, but it's way too early for that.
The guy that to me is going to be interesting to watch, especially with this little blurb on Crew, is the guy Isaiah Ford. Fast guy, speedy guy, can do a lot of different things out there. He's going to get some opportunities out there. I think he's a guy that, like I said, I wasn't out yesterday to see him, but I'm going to keep an eye on him when training camp rolls around, because speed's the one thing you can't teach.
Right, and he can play the slot also.
Yes. Yeah,
and that's valuable.
Yeah, so
no, he'll get a long look, no doubt about it. They're deep at wide receiver.
Yeah, excellent. Offensively, any shortcomings on offense other than what happens on those two guard positions?
Boy, Julius Thomas is impressive.
Yeah,
he really is impressive.
He's big body.
Oh
isn't he?
Yeah. You look at the offense. You can say, well, Kenyon Drake has to show that he's a good backup running back behind Ajayi. Sure. But if you're talking about backups, as concerns at this point, they're pretty solid in offense.
Yeah, no doubt. And the other thing too is that you have more faith. You have more faith in this coaching staff, and I'm not talking about just the head coach. I'm talking about position coaches, assistant coaches, all the people that do that, strength coaches, conditioning coaches, all those kind of people that do that. Do you have more confidence that these guys can make these players better over the course of their life with this team, whether it's 1 year, 2 years,
yeah, I do.
Whatever. I mean, I thought I watched last year before my very eyes. Guys get better during the course of the season, and I look at the Lippett's and I look at Byron Maxwell and I look at different people. I look at Neville Hewitt, guys like that, Mike Hull. Guys like that got to play and got better the more they played, because a coach can't make a guy better until he sees him on film and makes corrections.
Right, and you're talking about improvement
along.
During the course of the season. What I expect now is significant improvement from year 1 to year 2.
No doubt.
Even more so than the course of the season. And I think that will be a good indicator for all of us to show the impact that this coaching staff is having on these players, is how many of the first-year players are far better second-year players. How many of the second-year players are far better third-year players. That'll be...
And I would think that's going to be significantly different than what we've had in the past decade and a half or so, maybe 2 decades.
It's been a long time. And
where you've seen a guy come in and go, wow, that guy in 3 years, that guy got a lot better than he was when he was a rookie. Now, it used to be, you'd see a guy 3 years into the league, 4 years in, and he's the same guy.
He's the same guy, or he's digressed.
Yes, no doubt. Periscope, how do you strategize with T.J. McDonald being out for the first 8 weeks, and who takes the spot opposite Rashad Jones? I think that's Nate Allen gets the first shot in there.
Yeah, I think it is too.
And I, to be honest with you, I think they're kind of holding their breath through 8 games to wait until they get T.J. McDonald back, because I think he's the guy.
Yeah, he's a stud, and they were very, very fortunate.
Yeah,
smart move to bring him in, looking to the future, realizing that the last 2 months of the season they'll have him, and to have a guy come in fresh for the last 2 months of the season is invaluable.
And look, the good thing for him, he gets to practice during the OTAs, gets to practice during mini camp, gets to practice during training camp, and playing preseason games. So he gets all that work ahead of him. And then 8 weeks in,
there's a guy you'll probably see in the 4th preseason game when everybody else.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah,
he may play every down of that game.
Right.
What the hell? He's got nothing else to do for the next eight weeks or so. Call time. It's hard to gauge offensive line play with no contact. There's no doubt about that. I mean, look, these OTAs, and I know the fans aren't allowed to come in. Maybe I think one of the OTAs are the fans.
I don't think so.
They're not going to be open to the public.
I'm not sure. Don't hold me on that.
You can't gauge offensive line or defensive line play at all in this.
No, you really can't.
You can look at a guy the way he carries himself. Maybe is he heavy in his feet? Does he have good balance? You can look at some of those things, but that's the thing about practice and the way it's scheduled to me now in the NFL. Whereas if you're a free agent offensive or defensive lineman, how do you get a chance to even make the club? You have very few practices where you're in full contact, and limited preseason games where you're going to get to play very much, where that's full contact. How do they decide whether a guy like that can play?
You've got to make the most of every little opportunity you have.
Yeah.
You have to do everything you can to gain their attention. It's a very.
You remember back in the days when you had a real training, or the way training camps used to be. I mean, you need as many bodies out there just to get through the practice.
And you saw undrafted rookies making the team all the time.
Because they had opportunities to make play, especially in the interior line. If all your practices or the majority of practices are no contact, how does an offensive or defensive lineman, how do you catch a coach's eye?
It's tough. I can tell the questioner, Laramie Tunsil is in just amazing shape. He came in for his press conference yesterday. Yeah. He's got the biggest arms I've ever seen for an offensive lineman, and he's the real deal. There is no flab on that 320 pounds.
No.
He is ready for this challenge at left tackle. He is confident, and his teammates are very, very confident in him.
And look, you got to love a guy that was an offensive tackle through his career and should have been the starting left tackle. Move him down to guard position, and I never heard the guy. I never heard one complaint. Never heard one thing from him.
And that'll make him a better player.
Yes.
Having a year at guard will have him appreciate the guy next to him.
He'll understand what that guy next to him,
definitely,
what challenges he faces and where he can help that guy better do his job. And if you got Pouncey on the other side doing the same thing, that's why you don't worry about the guard positions that much, especially if you've got a center like Mike Pouncey and you've got 2 good tackles outside, because you can help them on both sides of the football. I always go back to Dwight Stevenson. Always seemed that when Dwight was there, we always had a Pro Bowler at
guard.
Had one or both of the.
I wonder why that
was. Periscope Bo, was there a non-contact drill that you hated? Yeah, running. Anything that had to do with running, I hated.
12-minute run, did you hate that?
I hated the 12. I didn't mind the sprints. I didn't mind gassers because I didn't mind sprints, but the long distance, I wasn't a big long distance guy.
Ed Newman liked the 12-minute run too.
I never saw a guy talk himself.
He would just spasm all over the field.
Talk himself out of it. And you always knew when he was going down. His head would lean over, and an arm would start throwing out the side. And you go, Eddie's going down.
Down for the count.
Eddie's got to give him 30 more seconds. He's going down, man. Sure enough. I remember one year he wore a. I remember he came, a real quick story before we go. He came in, he goes, Bo, because we used to run together a lot during when we were working out. And I'd run, distance with him and he never had a problem. But it was always that glare of the spotlight, the cameras out there, all the cameras were on him.
Always.
And you'd have to go through a practice before you run the 12-minute run. And he says, Bo, I'm going to make the 12-minute run. He says, I know I'm going to make the 12-minute run. I go, well, what makes you think that? He says, I got this monitor He goes, and I can set it, and I can set it's a pacer.
I remember that.
So I can set the pace. Beep, beep. So I know, he's a Duke guy, smart.
Right.
He goes, I've got to take 2,345 steps in 12 minutes. If I can do that, and I've got him all set in a pace. And so he gets started running. He starts doing it, and he hits the wrong button. And so now it's on his heart monitor, right? Now so he's got like the little watch on and the heart monitor, and he's running, and you can hear his heart. Beep, 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 and he's running. He gets the first lap. He comes around the first, and everyone would come out to watch the offensive line run because someone was going down.
No doubt about it.
And he comes around the first lap, and it's like beep, 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 moving along faster, Comes around the next lap, and you can see him start to slow down. It's like beep, 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 beep. It's going like this. And then John Sandusky, God damn it, Ed. Take that goddamn thing off. I'm tired of hearing it. Ed's going, coach, and he's still running. And then all of a sudden you see that head off to the far side of the field. See that head go down. Everyone goes,
it's over then. Man. It's over.
Here it comes. And he comes around. And this thing's like, beep, 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 like that. And we're going, he ain't going to make it. He's got a lap and a half to go. He ain't going to make it.
That was so much fun to watch.
Coming around and here's Sanders, shut that damn thing off, Eddie. And then sure enough, he's got about 100 yards to go. Heads over, arms throwing out like that. And boom, he goes down. And all you can hear is his heart monitor. It's like a constant scream. The trainer, get over. Help this guy out.
Eddie.
That was it. That's going to do it for the Audible Day, Andy. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Pleasure, Bo.
Early start to the weekend. You guys have a happy Memorial Day weekend. We won't be here on Monday, but we'll be back on Tuesday with the Audible on Tuesday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday next week. You have a good weekend, and we'll catch you then.